Hello and welcome to Double Play Sports. I'm James alongside Pat, and today we are here with Colorado Rockies reliever Lucas Gilbreath. Lucas, how you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you on. This is the first ever active player we've had on the show, so big milestone for us here. And of course, a guy that if you don't know him yet, you're going to know him now. So first question I have for you, growing up in Colorado, did you grow up rooting for the Rockies? And if so, who's your favorite player growing up?
Yeah, I've always been a Rockies fan. I did remember even in like kindergarten and elementary school, my dad sneaking me out of class for opening day kind of deal. But growing up, it was always Todd Helton.
Hmm.
Obviously, he's, in my opinion, probably the best Rocky ever, him or obviously Larry Walker. But hopefully he sneaks into the Hall of Fame here soon, which will be awesome. It's well-deserved. And, growing up, I was always just a huge, huge Helton fan, especially as a lefty. It's hard not to be.
He's got to get in the Hall at some point. He's on my ballot this year and has been the last few. But he's a guy who hits 300 every year, Gold Glove or Silver Slugger. He's crazy. So
Yeah, I mean, his splits aren't even that crazy. I know there's always the
yeah,
argument of Coors Field, but he hit well on the road too. So
yeah,
I think people are finally realizing that.
definitely.
So then, next up, we're curious. Of course, we are going to later find out that you'd be drafted twice by your hometown team. But the first time, you were drafted in the 36th round. And obviously, it's improbable for a lot of guys going 36th round. It has happened, but not that often. So what went into the decision to end up playing at Minnesota?
Yeah, I think when we were getting in close to the draft process, they kind of asked me, they go through what number would you take as a signing bonus? What are you looking to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I was pretty dead set on going to college. So the conversation was pretty simple with them. It kind of came down to like, hey, you still want to go to college? I was like, yeah, I still want to go to college. Great. We'll keep an eye on you. Hopefully see you in 3 years. And, the rest is kind of history. It obviously worked out. But for me, I wanted to start an education. I wanted to get a little more development under my belt because as a self-evaluator, I don't think I was ready for pro ball. And especially after going through the minor leagues, there's no way I would have been ready for that at 18.
Yeah, no, completely get that. So then playing at Minnesota, you showed out your sophomore and junior year, pitching to a combined 2.28 ERA. So then come draft day 2017, how'd the mindset change a little bit, and how are you feeling on draft day? Any nerves going on? Who are you watching draft day?
I hated it. I hated it. The draft is one of the worst processes, and I obviously will never have to go through it again, hopefully, but it's chaos. You get calls, people say, hey, will you take this? You say yes. And then, on TV, it's like, wait, they drafted somebody else. And so I got sick of it after like the third or fourth round. I was so stressed and annoyed that I just went fishing. And I was like, well, if I get a call, I get a call. And, I got several. And then finally the Rockies took me in the seventh round, thank God, because I was at the point I was like, I'm over this. I'm done, man. I've talked to 20 teams and the third, fourth, fifth, sixth round, all that stuff. And the draft's just a crazy process. So I was, blessed that it worked out. But I got to the point I was like, I'm just going to do something I enjoy and chill out and go fishing. And, fortunately, I got a call about 20 minutes later from the Rockies.
Very nice.
All right, so as you just said, you ended up being drafted in the seventh round by the Rockies. And you worked your way through the minors. Your career really hadn't taken off yet when we hit 2020 and the pandemic. So what was the experience for you like in the pandemic and keeping in big league shape?
Yeah, so that was probably the most fun, crazy part of my career, and it always will be, to be honest with you, because 2020, I had a pretty good spring training for like the 2 weeks we were there, and then we get shut down, right? And we don't know if we're shut down for 2 weeks or 2 months, and then come like 3 months later, still nothing, right? And they kind of say, we're going to do an alternate site. I've been working out, and then I don't get invited to the alternate site. So I think that's when I kind of got frustrated. And, especially being a hometown kid, I was frustrated because I'm like, I live 20 minutes away. I can come to the alternate site. Why is it a big deal? So that's when I really started grinding. And I was in there at the facility that I'm a part owner of now, where during COVID restrictions, they let me work out early in the morning at 6 a.m., which I don't know, it's probably illegal at part of the time, but I was in there by myself, and I fortunately had one of my guys there helping me. And that's when I really, I think, kind of, not to embrace the cliche, but put my nose to the grindstone and just started working every day. And the velo started to tick up. And so going into the end of that summer, I had kind of talked to some coaches. I had some guys watch some bullpens, and I was thrown in the upper 90s. And I kind of wanted to give them zero excuse to say that I'm not ready. So I fortunately got the invite to instructional league that year, which normally probably would have been fall league for me, but they didn't have a fall league that year. So I was at Instructs with a combination of guys that were like 18 and then some guys in a similar boat to me. And I think I threw 13 innings there, and I gave up one hit or something. So I threw well in that fall league, and then got put on the roster, and then played in 21 and 22, obviously.
Yeah, and absolutely. And so you talk about that grind set and really pushing your way through, and you showed that you only got 2 games in AAA in 2021 before getting called up to the bigs. Can you tell me a little bit about the experience getting the call up and getting ready for your first game?
Yeah, so my first call up was in, I want to say mid-April, and I didn't actually even play that day. So I got called up for a doubleheader, sat in the bullpen for 14 innings. We were doing 7-inning doubleheaders, and then got sent back to AAA. And I was like, oh, wow. So that one was kind of weird. That one was like, it didn't feel real because I kind of knew. Everybody told me, like, oh, if you go up for a doubleheader, you're there for a day, blah, blah, blah. So the next one, I was in Arizona at the alt site because we hadn't started AAA yet. And they were playing the Diamondbacks, and basically they said, hey, we're in Arizona, we need you at Chase Field. And so I had one of the guys that was at the alt site with me, Brian Servin, who's now catching in the big leagues. He drove me there, and I ended up making my debut that day. My wife, my mom flew in on like the last minute flight. They got to the game right before I pitched, and then I debuted in Arizona.
Talking about that debut on May 1st at Chase Field, you guys were up 14-5, and you came into the game, and Josh Rojas stepped up to the plate. I believe it was the first pitch of your career, and Rojas took you right into the pool at Chase Field. How was that feeling, especially like you said, after that little whirlwind of just getting the call and getting your family there and all that? And how were you able to bounce back and finish the inning with all those nerves?
Yeah, so that was a funny one, obviously, because I hope you guys get the experience someday. But if you're ever pitching and making your debut, like all you want to do is throw a strike for your first pitch, right? Because nobody wants to walk the first guy or let it snowball or whatever. So I'm just sitting there and like throw a strike, throw a strike, throw a strike, and then boom. So it was kind of funny, like especially if you've played baseball for a long time, you have to have a short memory and you have to kind of let things slide. But I was like, wow, like, well, I guess I got it out of the way. But for me, it was just, continuing to execute pitches. Even looking back, it wasn't that bad of a pitch. So it was kind of a funny start. I mean, from a reliever's perspective, obviously, I'm going to give up home runs. I'm going to blow a game here and there. And it was kind of funny to get out of the way right away.
Yeah, absolutely. So after a bit of a shaky start to your career, you then posted 17 straight scoreless outings. How do you keep consistent during a long season? And did you have any superstitions during your 17-game streak?
Yeah, so that's the $1 million question, is how did I get to that point? And I think I have an idea, and hopefully I can do it this year. But usually what happens is my velocity starts to tick up, my command gets a little better, and my slider cleans up. And it's usually a function of like smoothing out my mechanics. So I'm hoping to just do that all year. Now, is that possible? I don't know. But superstition wise, I don't cut my hair or shave my beard when I'm on a streak like that. So if you notice, like if you see pictures at the end of that streak, like I looked horrible. I had long hair, I had bushy beard, all that stuff. But I'm pretty superstitious about that. I'll wear the same cleats, I'll use the same glove, I'll do the same reps and sets of all my warm-ups. Like I'll do 6 throws with one weighted ball, do 6 more throws with another weighted ball, and then I'll do, I'm very, very specific about that stuff. So yeah, how baseball players are. But yeah, I had that streak in 21, and then 22 on my streak, I was eating like 1 red starburst and 1 orange starburst before every game. But lefties are weird and relievers are weird, so whatever it takes to keep you going.
Definitely.
So what I'm hearing is that if all goes well this year, by the end of the year, you'll be looking like Charlie Blackmon.
Yes. If I have a really good year, I'll look like Chuck by the end of the year.
So I have another question. If you ever find yourself on the Yankees, that's going to be a problem, especially if you end up as a premier closer, because what happens then?
I'm going to have a heck of a mustache is all I've decided. And maybe I'll grow out like just the top so that I can't see it. And then if I take my hat off, it'll flop down or something.
Yeah, you got the alfalfa cut up there.
Yeah.
So during your career so far, you've put together a 2.58 ERA in your 47 appearances at Coors. Usually seen as the hardest park to pitch in. What do you think has been your cause for success there, and what do you think about the altitude? We'll say.
Yeah. So what's funny is like growing up in Colorado, I obviously never thought about the altitude. It was just normal. It's like, oh, I pitch in Denver. I never had any clue until I went elsewhere. But for me, it's just a different approach. I think I've learned the hard way. Honestly, my first ever outing at Coors, I learned pretty quick. The more you try and make stuff move or throw the nastiest breaking ball ever, the worse it's going to get. So I've kind of changed my approach at Coors. I try and get weak contact. I don't chase strikeouts as much, and I've even kind of changed my arsenal to um, be more effective at Coors. And I think for me, honestly, like you said, I've had almost more success at Coors. So now I'm kind of trying to figure out how to replicate that on the opposite end, which sounds crazy, but I've figured out good ways to make my pitches effective in Denver, and especially living here in the off season and throwing bullpens here, I'm able to work on it. So now it's going to be kind of almost transferring that to sea level, which is the opposite of almost every guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So talking about playing for the Rockies, playing at Coors, what's been your experience? You started your career in Colorado. You got drafted twice by the Rockies. You played your whole career with the Rockies. What's been your experience playing with the Rockies and the Rockies organization?
Yeah, I've had a great experience. Obviously, Coors Field is one of the coolest parks in baseball, and I think we're building something pretty solid right now. I know it's hard to tell because the NL West is obviously such a ridiculously stacked division, but I think we got a good core group of guys, and I think a lot of the guys there want to win and want to do whatever it takes to win. So I think going forward, I think we'll be in a good spot. We have a lot of the right pieces, so it's just going to be putting it all together.
Yeah, I mean, this upcoming year, obviously, schedule changes a little bit, so you're not playing your Juan Soto's, your Manny Machado's, your Mookie Betts as much as last year. But what do you think will be some new challenges with that schedule? Something you see new guys, you see less of the current guys. How do you think that's going to go year one?
Yeah, I think the travel is definitely going to be rough. I think that's one thing I've noticed. But from a reliever standpoint, it's going to help us, or it should help us at least, because one, guys don't really see relievers that much anyway. And now you add in the concept of not even playing as many games against, division opponents and non-division interleague stuff. And I think it's going to help relievers because, these guys will maybe see me once or twice a series, maybe every other year, right? So it gives pitcher's a big advantage. There's less scouting report. Guys haven't seen you. And then I think, too, it helps, obviously, not playing the Dodgers and the Padres and Diamondbacks and Giants as many times because, you get tired of throwing to the same guys. And it does become a little bit of a chess match, which is fun to an extent, but it's also nice to see new guys. And it's fun to, have the challenge, to throw to an Aaron Judge, whoever it is. It's fun.
Definitely.
Yeah. So far through your career, you've had two very solid seasons out of the bullpen. What are you looking forward to for this upcoming year? Any goals, things you're looking to accomplish?
Yeah, for me, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I just want to be consistent. I think my first year, you saw I go on a streak like halfway through the year, and at the second half of the year, and then my second year, I go on a streak for like the middle of the year, and I just kind of want to put it together for a whole year this year. I think right now it's getting healthy, staying healthy, and then kind of finding that groove and staying there any way I can. And I don't like to necessarily put goals on numbers or whatever, but I want to help the team win games, and I think if I can pitch well, the team will win games.
Absolutely. So we talked about a few guys, some opponents you faced, but throughout your career so far, who has been the toughest hitter you've had to face so far, in your opinion?
It's funny because Josh Rojas is the one. I mean, he saw my first pitch. He's hit well off me every time, and he's a good hitter by all means. But you would think it'd be like a Juan Soto or Mookie Betts or somebody, right? But Rojas has had my number. That's something obviously you notice after 3 or 4 at bats. It's no longer like a coincidence, and you're like, wow, this guy sees me well. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. But he's probably the one for me that I have the hardest time getting out.
Yeah, Rojas is not a joke out there. He's a very solid third baseman. Good guy to have.
Well, one of those guys comes up to the plate. You finally just got their big 3-hitter up. Then all of a sudden comes the guy that's got you. Oh God.
Yeah, I know. You get Christian Walker or whoever who was hitting really well for
Yeah.
him last year. I'm like, gosh, I gotta get this guy now.
Yeah.
Uh, so then, we're interested. What guys that are in the bigs right now are you close with? Are you working out with any guys like that this off season? Anything like that?
Yeah, so this off season, I've got some minor league guys and independent ball guys that train at my facility. So Braxton Lorenzini used to be with the Rockies. He's trying to get a contract and affiliated ball again. He's solid. He's throwing 100, which is incredible. It's crazy the guys that you see now. Carson Ferry's in there. He's an indie guy. I think he's trying to get picked up by the Diamondbacks or somebody. And then Travis Coons with the Mariners. Ryan Weiss is going to come in. He's with the Diamond. He might be with the Royals now. He's kind of bounced around. But I talked to a lot of different guys. I talked to a lot of guys on the Rockies, obviously. But I love just chatting with guys, being around the guys, because we've been doing live at bats every Friday night. I just kind of like that atmosphere. Obviously, knowing Trevor Bauer, and I worked out there in 2021 during the lockout, meeting some of those guys. I'm just kind of trying to replicate that in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about where a lot of people might know you from, which is TikTok. Besides your, of course, on-field play. So you started a TikTok account early 22. Talk to me a little bit about your inspiration to start the page and what have been your highlights so far. And does that include a little bit of making Eric Sims look silly?
Yeah. So the motivation was honestly when I was at that facility, working with Eric and Trevor and Watch Momentum. Obviously, it's a content creator's dream in there. So they kind of were getting on me like, you should post stuff, you should do this, you should do that. And so after a while, I was kind of like, I feel almost lazy not posting stuff because it's fun and I think kids enjoy it. And if I can do some fun stuff and do some educational stuff, it's best of both worlds. So I kind of got to the point where I was like, I want to do, I obviously have to post funny stuff to grow my brand, but I also want to post educational stuff and help kids out because, some kids just don't get the information. So that was kind of my big push was, at least I can use it as a platform to help kids out and teach some of the things that I've learned. And, along the way, there's been a lot of fun stuff. I've learned a lot of stuff. Some videos do horribly, some videos do really well. I don't really understand why things happen, to be honest with you, but I've noticed that my fans like self-deprecation when I make fun of myself or give up home runs or make errors, whatever. They love that, so that's always funny. But it goes back to the old school commercial. I think it was chicks dig the long ball. People don't like pitching quite as much as home runs, so it's been fun.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing a video where you were posting about your first home run. We talked about. I'm like, dang, this got a lot of views and stuff. So I guess
Yes.
maybe you stay away from the hot streak. Maybe you just go with the low lights and that'll
Just go with all the bad stuff.
and then you'll be up to like a Charlie D'Amelio or something like that. Maybe
Yeah.
get some dance moves in there.
Yeah, I've definitely seen your comments talking about grinding on Diamond Dynasty against you in the show. And me personally, I am also guilty of doing that.
It's always funny because it's funny because I haven't played the show in a while and I totally get it. All these kids will come in and they're like, I hit a home run off you. And I'm like, that's awesome. I haven't even played the last 2 games, so I don't even know what to say to that, but that's great.
And then just like Momentum did to you, is there any big league guys that you think should get on TikTok?
There's a lot of guys, honestly. I think Daniel Bard or Charlie Blackmon would both be. Blackmon would be an unbelievable candidate. I don't think he would ever do it, but he is one of the funniest, weirdest, coolest guys you'll ever meet, and I can't even imagine some of the content that he would produce. But he's so locked in as a baseball player, I don't think he'd ever do it.
I think when the All-Star game was at Coors, I think I remember Blackmon being mic'd up while he's in the outfield. I think that did make for some good content. So,
in the outfield, you get really bored because you don't have any friends. So I got no friends. Like everybody's far away. So, you got to find ways to entertain yourself.
Oh, yeah, he's crazy. He's a blast, though. He's a great dude. And some of the stuff that goes through his head, it's hilarious.
Yeah, he seems like a really great guy. So that's all the questions we have for you, Lucas. Thank you so much, man. It was great talking to you. You seemed like a great guy, and we're super thrilled to see what you can do in 2023.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It was a blast.